The stars themselves seemed to bend as the Korvathi Ascendancy fleet emerged from divine transit. 200 warships materialized in Earth's solar system, each one blessed by the eternal pantheon. Their hulls gleamed with holy light that no mere metal could produce. Energy shields hummed with prayers spoken by thousands of devoted priests. These were not simple machines of war. These were instruments of divine will. Commander Prelate Vexthar stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Judgment, his four arms crossed in a gesture of supreme confidence. His species had served the gods for 3,000 years. In that time, they had brought 47 worlds into the Pantheon's embrace. Some had surrendered peacefully, others had resisted and been crushed. All eventually understood the simple truth: fighting against gods was pointless. "Analysis complete, Commander Prelate," his censor officer reported. The young Korvathi's face showed confusion. "The planet registers no divine signatures, no blessing marks, no temples of significant power. They have basic spaceflight capability, but it appears entirely mechanical in nature." Vexthar's eyes narrowed. A spacefaring civilization without divine patrons? That was unusual. Most species received their first blessings from local deities when they developed sufficient consciousness. Those blessings guided them to the stars. These humans seem to have clawed their way up using only crude technology. "Perhaps their gods are weak," suggested War Priest Kolth from his prayer station. "Small planetary deities often lack the power to properly mark their followers." "Then they will welcome the Pantheon's strength," Vexthar replied. He activated the communication array, blessed to translate any language through divine understanding. "Attention, humans of Earth. I am Commander Prelate Vexthar of the Korvathi Ascendancy, sword arm of the Eternal Pantheon. We come to offer you a place in the cosmic order. Submit to the gods, receive their blessings, and join the great unity of divine civilizations. You have 6 of your hours to respond with your acceptance." The message broadcast across all of Earth's communication frequencies. The Korvathi waited. Vexthar expected fear, awe, perhaps desperate prayers from human religious leaders begging their local gods for guidance. What he got instead made him check his translation systems for errors. A single word came back across every channel: "No." Vexthar blinked his inner eyelids in confusion. "Clarification is required," he transmitted. "You may not understand. The Eternal Pantheon offers protection, advancement, and purpose. Rejection means conflict. We have divine might beyond your comprehension." The response came from multiple sources this time, but the message was the same. Some humans added colorful descriptions of what the Korvathi could do with their offer. Others provided detailed lists of anatomically improbable suggestions. A few simply repeated that single word: "No." "This makes no sense," Kolth muttered, his prayer beads clicking nervously. "Every species fears divine wrath. Why do they refuse?" Vexthar studied the planet below. Cities lit up like jewels in the darkness. Orbital stations bristled with primitive weapons. Space traffic rerouted as civilian ships fled to defensive positions. The humans were preparing for war, not conversion. "Perhaps they do not believe we serve true gods," suggested the censor officer. "They may think we lie. Then we will demonstrate." Vexthar raised his primary hand. "Power the celestial lance. Target their largest military installation. A small demonstration will clarify our position." The order spread through the fleet. The flagship's main weapon, a crystalline spire powered by concentrated divine energy, began to glow. Priests chanted in unison. The energy signature would be impossible for humans to miss. They would see power beyond their physics, and they would understand. But before the weapon could fire, proximity alarms shrieked. Red indicators flashed across every console. "Multiple launches from the planet's surface. Scanning. They appear to be fusion-based missiles. Hundreds of them." The sensor officer's voice cracked with surprise. "They are targeting the entire fleet." "Impossible," Calth said. "They cannot harm blessed ships with such primitive—" The first missile struck a destroyer on the fleet's outer edge. The divine shield flared, absorbing most of the blast. Most, but not all. The ship shuddered. Damage reports started flooding in. Then the second wave hit, and the third. Earth's entire nuclear arsenal was in flight. Supplemented by experimental weapons, the Corvathi's sensors barely understood. Kinetic kill vehicles moving at relativistic speeds, electromagnetic pulse bombs, primitive but devastating. Shields holding, "But we are taking damage," the tactical officer reported. "They are firing at us. They know we have divine protection and they are firing anyway." Vexthar felt something he had not experienced in decades of holy warfare. Uncertainty. Species that saw divine power either surrendered or tried to negotiate. They did not immediately launch every weapon they possessed. "Return fire. Demonstrate the Pantheon's might," he commanded. The Corvathi fleet responded with devastating precision. Blessed energy beams carved through space. Probability weapons made missiles fail before reaching their targets. Prayer-guided torpedoes sought out human installations with divine certainty. The Earth's defensive satellites were swept away like dust, but more kept coming. Human ships emerged from behind the moon, their hulls marked with war paint instead of holy symbols. They flew in formation, launching wave after wave of weapons. When missiles ran out, they used railguns. When railguns overheated, they rammed. A human destroyer, already torn apart by Corvathi fire, adjusted course with its last functioning thruster. It crashed into a blessed frigate at tremendous speed. Both ships became expanding clouds of debris. "They sacrificed an entire ship!" Calth was standing now, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. "For what purpose? They could not possibly damage us significantly with such tactics." But they had. The frigate was gone. Its crew of 200 blessed warriors dead, killed by humans who had thrown themselves forward without hesitation. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, Earth's orbital defenses were in ruins. 40 human warships had been destroyed. 3 space stations burned, but the Corvathi had lost 34 ships, 34 blessed vessels, carrying crews trained since birth in holy warfare, destroyed by a species without divine favor. Vexithar stared at the damage reports in silence. His fleet was supposed to be invincible. They carried the gods' own protection, yet nearly a third of his force was gone, and the humans were already regrouping. He could see their surviving ships pulling back to defensive positions around the planet. They were organizing, adapting, preparing for the next assault. "Commander Prelate," his communication officer said quietly, "we have received a transmission from Earth. They wish to inform us of something." "What is it?" They said, and I quote, "That was your warning shot. Leave now, or learn what happens when you anger us." Vexthar felt his blood chill. A warning shot? They had just fought a battle that would have destroyed most pre-spaceflight civilizations, and the humans called it a warning? He retreated to his private chamber and performed the sacred communion ritual, seeking guidance from the Pantheon. The response came as a vision, as always, but this time the message was different from the usual blessings and encouragement. "These creatures are known to us," the divine voice whispered, and Vexthar heard something he had never heard from his gods before. He heard concern. "Proceed with caution, Commander Prelate. They are not as other species. They are cursed, and curses sometimes cut both ways." The vision faded, leaving Vexithar with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear: this conquest would not be routine. These humans, God-forsaken and alone in the cosmos, had just bloodied the nose of a divine fleet, and they promised worse to come. Vexthar had spent 3 days studying the humans. 3 days of watching their communications, analyzing their tactics, and trying to understand what made them so different. His priests assured him that divine victory was certain. The Pantheon had never failed their followers, yet doubt gnawed at him like a parasite. The second assault began at dawn over Earth's largest continent. The Corvathi fleet split into 3 groups, each targeting a major population center. This time, they would not hold back. This time, they would show these stubborn creatures what real divine power looked like. "Deploy the consecrated wings," Vexthar commanded. "Let the humans see warriors who carry the god's own favor." Thousands of blessed fighters launched from the capital ships. Each pilot had undergone years of training and religious purification. They flew craft that bent the rules of physics, protected by shields that could absorb tremendous damage. Their weapons fired concentrated divine energy that could punch through any known material. The human response was immediate and violent. Earth's remaining defensive platforms opened fire. Ground-based lasers painted the sky. Fighter craft rose from hidden bunkers, their designs crude but effective. Missiles streaked upward in such quantities that they blocked out the sun. The battle became chaos. Blessed Corvathi fighters weaved through the defensive fire, their probability shields making human weapons miss or malfunction. But humans compensated with pure volume. If one missile missed, 9 more followed. If probability made lasers curve away, the humans simply fired more lasers. Squadron leader Venth, a decorated pilot with 12 successful campaigns, found himself in a dogfight with 3 human fighters. His shields absorbed their first attacks easily. He returned fire, destroying one with a single blessed shot. The second fighter broke off, trailing smoke, but the third kept coming. "Surrender!" Venth broadcast on the common channel. "Your weapons cannot harm me. Save yourself." The human pilot's response came in accented but clear Corvathi. "Come and make me, holy boy." The fighter accelerated directly toward Venth. He fired again, scoring a direct hit on the human craft's wing. It should have been destroyed. Instead, the pilot kept coming, using emergency thrusters to maintain course. At the last moment, Venth realized what was happening. The human was ramming him. He tried to evade, but too late. The dying fighter crashed into his blessed craft with suicidal precision. Both exploded in a ball of fire. This pattern repeated across the battlefield. Human pilots who ran out of ammunition used their ships as weapons. Damaged craft flew straight into Corvathi formations. One human bomber, already falling from the sky, managed to crash directly into a blessed destroyer's engine port. "They are insane!" Kalth shouted over the command channel. "They throw away their lives for negligible tactical gain." But the gains were not negligible. Each suicide attack took out a blessed warrior. Each sacrifice bought time for human reinforcements to arrive. The humans fought with a desperation and ferocity that the Corvathi could not match, because they had never needed to. Gods provided protection. Gods ensured victory. Why die when divine favor guaranteed success? The humans had no such assurance. They died anyway. Admiral Chen commanded Earth's defense from a bunker deep beneath what used to be Beijing. Her screens showed the terrible cost of resistance. Thousands dead, entire squadrons gone, cities burning, but her expression never changed. "Pull back the third fighter wing," she ordered. "They are too damaged to continue. Route all remaining missile platforms to support the European defense grid." "Admiral, we have lost 70% of our orbital capability," her tactical officer reported. His voice was steady despite the despair in his eyes. "At current rates, we cannot hold for more than another 4 hours." "Then we hold for 4 hours," Chen said simply. "Activate the civilian evacuation protocol. Get as many people underground as possible." "Ma'am, the enemy is demanding our surrender. They promise to spare civilian populations if we yield now." Chen looked at the young officer. "Do you believe them?" "No, ma'am." Neither do I. Keep fighting. The battle raged on. Human losses mounted terribly, but so did Corvathi casualties. Another destroyer fell when a damaged human cruiser rammed it at full thrust. Fighter squadrons were decimated, but kept returning for more. Ground forces dug in and prepared for the inevitable invasion. Vexthar watched from orbit, his confidence eroding with every ship he lost. How were these primitive beings so effective? They had no divine blessings. No probability manipulation, no energy shields powered by faith. They should have broken by now. War Priest Kalth, I require explanation, he demanded. Why do they not surrender? They must see that continued resistance is futile. Kalth had been studying human data transmissions. His face was troubled. Commander Prelate, I have been analyzing their historical records. These humans have a long history of warfare. Against each other mostly, but also against their environment, their planet, and apparently against their own gods. Impossible! No species wars with their divine patrons. Yet human mythology is filled with such stories. Prometheus defying Zeus, Lucifer rebelling against the Creator, countless tales of mortals challenging heaven and sometimes winning. Kalth's voice dropped. I believe these creatures do not understand that some fights cannot be won. They have spent their entire existence attempting impossible things and occasionally succeeding. Vexithar felt cold. A species that did not know when to quit was dangerous in ways the Blessed could never match. The Corvathi fought until victory was assured by divine power. Humans fought simply because they refused to stop. The turning point came when human forces launched their hidden reserve. 3 experimental warships emerged from behind Earth's moon, their designs unlike anything the Corvathi had encountered. They were larger than anything humans had fielded before, bristling with weapons that glowed with strange energy. What are those? Vexthar demanded. Scanning. Commander Prelate, they appear to be using some form of exotic matter reactor. The energy signature is enormous. They are charging weapons that... The first experimental ship fired. A beam of focused antimatter tore through space and struck a Corvathi battle cruiser. Divine shields flared and held for exactly 2 seconds before collapsing. The beam carved through blessed armor like it was paper. The battle cruiser broke apart. Impossible! Kalth's prayer beads shattered in his grip. That ship had triple blessed protection. It survived a direct hit from a star last campaign. But humans had not thrown divine energy at it. They had thrown weaponized antimatter, and physics cared nothing for blessings. The 3 experimental ships continued firing, each shot taking precious seconds to charge but devastating when it connected. The Corvathi fleet was forced to scatter, breaking formation to avoid the terrible new weapons. In that moment of chaos, human fighters surged forward. They had been holding back, waiting for this opportunity. They hit the disorganized Corvathi lines with everything they had left. Vexthar made a decision he had never made in 30 years of holy warfare. All ships, withdraw to high orbit. Regroup at Rally Point Divine 7. The fleet pulled back, leaving Earth's atmosphere. They had won, technically. The orbital platforms were destroyed. Much of Earth's fleet was gone. But the cost had been horrifying. 53 blessed ships lost, thousands of consecrated warriors dead, and the humans were already rebuilding, already preparing for the next round. That night, Vexthar performed another communion with the Pantheon. The vision came faster this time, and the divine message was clear. The curse upon them is strong. They cannot receive our help, Commander Prelate. But this also means you cannot rely on their fear of us. They do not believe in divine inevitability because they have never experienced divine grace. Proceed with extreme caution. The vision faded. Vexthar stood alone in his chamber, staring at casualty reports he could barely comprehend. The humans had no gods protecting them, no cosmic power ensuring their survival. They fought with crude weapons and desperate tactics, and somehow, impossibly, they were winning. The decision to invade Earth's surface was not made lightly. Vexithar knew that orbital bombardment could eventually break human resistance, but the Pantheon wanted converts, not corpses. Dead worlds served no one. So ground forces would be deployed to occupy major cities and force submission through overwhelming presence. The blessed warriors of the Korvathi were perfect for this task. Each soldier was enhanced through divine ritual. They were stronger than any natural being, faster than human reflexes, and protected by personal shields that could stop bullets. They wore armor inscribed with holy verses that healed wounds and turned aside blades. They were, in every measurable way, superior to human soldiers. The first wave landed in what humans called New York City. 5,000 blessed warriors descended in drop pods, expecting to secure the city within hours. War Priest Kalth led them personally, confident that seeing divine soldiers in person would finally break human resistance. The drop pods landed in the city center without opposition. The warriors emerged, weapons ready, shields active. The streets were empty, evacuated presumably. Smart choice by the humans. "Spread out in blessed formation," Kalth commanded. "Secure the primary structures. Find human leadership and bring them before me for conversion." The warriors moved through the streets in perfect order. Their training was flawless. Their equipment was divine. Nothing could stop them. The first explosion came from a building to their left. Not a military installation, just an ordinary structure that suddenly erupted with fire and shrapnel. 3 warriors fell, their shields overwhelmed by the sheer force. Before the squad could respond, gunfire erupted from windows, rooftops, and doorways. "Ambush! Return fire!" Kalth ordered, but his warriors were already engaged. Humans were everywhere, appearing from hiding spots that should not have existed. They fought with military weapons, civilian hunting rifles, improvised explosives, and in some cases, simple tools turned into weapons. A Korvathi warrior kicked down a door, confident in his blessed strength. A human child, no more than 12 years old, triggered a homemade bomb. Both died in the blast. "They use their young as weapons?" a soldier screamed over the communication channel. "What kind of species does this?" "One that refuses to quit," Kalth muttered, firing his divine weapon at a human position. The blessed energy struck true, and the building collapsed. But more humans appeared from other positions. Always more. The pattern repeated across the city. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a kill zone. Humans had turned their own home into a death trap, and they fought with a savagery that shocked the blessed warriors. They did not retreat when facing superior force. They did not surrender when wounded. They fought until death and sometimes beyond, using their dying moments to trigger one final trap. By nightfall, the Korvathi held only the landing zone. 5,000 warriors had been reduced to 3,000. The humans had lost 10 times as many, but they kept coming. "This is not warfare," one of Kalth's officers said, his voice shaking. "This is madness. They cannot win. Why do they keep fighting?" Kalth had no answer. He retreated to a secured building and reported to Vexithar. "Commander Prelate, we need reinforcements. The humans are using their entire population as soldiers, men, women, even their offspring. They fight from every shadow. We are taking unsustainable casualties." "Reinforcements are being prepared," Vexithar replied. But his voice carried doubt. "Kalth, what is wrong with these creatures? Why do they not fear us?" "I captured one for questioning," Kalth said. He gestured, and 2 warriors dragged a human woman forward. She was middle-aged, wounded, but her eyes showed no fear. "Perhaps she can explain." The woman spat blood and looked at Kalth with something like amusement. "You want to know why we fight? Go ahead. Ask your questions, holy man." "You cannot win." Kalth said simply. "We are blessed by the gods themselves. We are superior in every way. Your resistance gains nothing but suffering. Why not surrender and accept the Pantheon's peace?" The woman laughed. It was not a kind sound. "You think you are the first superior beings to show up and demand we kneel? Humans have been telling other humans they are superior for 10,000 years. Kings, emperors, self-proclaimed gods walking among us. Know what happened to them? What? We killed them. We overthrew them. We dragged them down from their thrones and showed them they bleed just like everyone else." She leaned forward despite her injuries. "Your gods don't scare us, alien. We have spent our entire history defying gods who were actually present. You think we will bow to yours just because you show up in fancy ships?" Kalth felt something twist in his chest. "You are insane. Fighting gods is impossible. Tell that to Prometheus, who stole fire from Zeus. Tell that to Lucifer, who rebelled against the Creator. Tell that to every human who looked at heaven and said, 'No, I don't think so.'" The woman smiled. "We have myths about fighting gods because we actually did it. And sometimes we won." "Myths are not real," Kalth said, but his voice was uncertain. "No? Then why do you follow real gods and we don't?" She coughed blood. "Maybe because when your god showed up and said, 'Worship us,' your people were smart and said yes. When ours showed up, we asked, 'What can you do for us?' And when we didn't like the answer, we told them to leave. And when they wouldn't leave," she shrugged, "we made them." Kalth executed her himself, a mercy shot from his divine weapon. But her words haunted him. He accessed the human data networks, reading their histories, their myths, their stories. What he found disturbed him deeply. Human history was filled with rebellion, not just against other humans, but against the very concept of divine authority. Prometheus giving fire to humanity in defiance of Zeus, Lucifer's rebellion against God, the Tower of Babel, where humans tried to reach heaven itself. In nearly every human culture, there were stories of mortals defying gods and sometimes succeeding. More disturbing were the human philosophical movements, entire schools of thought dedicated to questioning divine authority. Some humans believed gods did not exist. Others believed they existed but should not be obeyed. Still others believed humans should become gods themselves through their own efforts. "These creatures are broken," Kalth reported to Vexthar. "They do not understand cosmic order. They think divine authority is something to be questioned or rejected. This is not stubbornness. This is fundamental defect in their thinking." "Or something else," Vexthar said quietly. He had been receiving troubling reports from other landing zones. Tokyo had cost 7,000 blessed warriors. Moscow had been even worse. The humans were adapting to Korvathi tactics faster than should be possible. "What do you mean?" "I have been studying their technology. Kalth, they are learning from us. Human scientists have been analyzing our weapons, our shields, our divine energy signatures. They are developing counters, not through prayer or blessing, but through science. They are treating divine power as just another form of physics to be understood and exploited." Kalth felt his faith waver. That should not be possible. Divine energy is not subject to scientific analysis. It is blessing, not physics. Try telling the humans that. Vexthar transmitted a data file. "Look at this. Human weapons firing electromagnetic pulses tuned specifically to disrupt our prayer shields. They developed them in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, Kalth. They observed, analyzed, tested, and weaponized their understanding of power given by gods. In Earth's underground research facility, Dr. Sarah Kim studied the captured Korvathi equipment with fascination. The technology was incredible, far beyond human capability, but it followed rules. Everything followed rules. You just had to figure out what they were. "The energy pattern is consistent," she told her team. Their shields respond to specific frequency ranges. They are strong, yes, but not invincible. If we modulate our weapons to match these counter frequencies, we should be able to punch through. Doctor, the aliens call this divine energy, one of her assistants said. They claim it is power from their gods. Then their gods follow physics like everything else, Sarah replied. There is no such thing as magic, just science we don't understand yet, and once we understand it, we can break it. Within a month, human weapons were evolving specifically to counter Korvathi blessings. Electromagnetic pulse grenades that disrupted prayer shields. Bullets coated in materials that interfered with divine armor. Gases that seemed to physically hurt blessed warriors, making them weaker. The Korvathi were not just fighting humans. They were fighting a species that treated divine power as a puzzle to solve rather than a force to fear. And slowly, terribly, the humans were solving it. Vexthar watched casualty reports multiply and felt despair creep into his hearts. This was supposed to be a simple conquest. Instead, it had become a nightmare. The humans were cursed, cut off from divine favor, abandoned by cosmic powers. And somehow, that made them more dangerous than any blessed species in the galaxy. 6 months into the war, Vexthar had lost half his fleet and most of his faith. The casualties were beyond anything the Korvathi had experienced in 3,000 years of divine conquest. Ships destroyed, warriors dead, cities reduced to rubble, but still defended by humans who refused to acknowledge they were beaten. The worst part was the humans were improving. Their tactics evolved daily. Their weapons became more effective weekly. Human scientists reverse-engineered Korvathi technology faster than blessed engineers could develop counters. It was like fighting an enemy that learned from every mistake and never made the same error twice. Vexthar stood in his private chamber, surrounded by failure. The Pantheon's blessings were not enough. Divine power was not enough. Nothing was enough against creatures who simply would not quit. He made a decision that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. He would perform the forbidden communion, not a simple prayer or vision quest, but direct contact with the eternal Pantheon. It was dangerous. Mortals who looked directly upon gods sometimes went mad or died, but he needed answers. The ritual required 3 days of fasting and prayer. Kalth and the other war priests helped him prepare, drawing sacred symbols on the floor of his chamber with blessed ink. They burned offerings and chanted prayers in the old tongue. When everything was ready, Vexthar stepped into the circle and spoke the words that had not been uttered in 500 years. Eternal Pantheon, I am your servant Vexthar. I have served faithfully. I have brought many worlds to your glory. Now I face an enemy I do not understand. I beg you, grant me direct audience. Let me speak with you as the prophets of old did. I need guidance beyond visions. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality tore open. Vexthar found himself standing in a place that was not a place. Colors that had no names swirled around him. Beings of pure energy and thought towered above him, their true forms too vast to comprehend. He fell to his knees. All 4 arms pressed to the ground. Rise, Commander Prelate, a voice said. It was not speech. It was meaning transmitted directly into his mind. You have called for direct communion. We grant it, though this privilege is rarely given. Vexthar rose on shaking legs. He was in the presence of gods, real, actual gods. Their power was infinite. Their knowledge was boundless. And yet when he looked at them, he saw something unexpected. They were afraid. Great Pantheon, Vexthar said carefully. I do not understand these humans. They have no divine favor, no blessings, no protection, yet they fight as if they do. They adapt and improve. They refuse to surrender. Why? The gods were silent for a long moment. Then one spoke, and its voice carried weight that made Vexithar's bones ache. "We will tell you what we have hidden from your people. It is time you understood what you face." Another god continued the story. "Long ago, when your species was still primitive, we encountered humanity. They were young, barely out of their caves. We saw potential in them. We offered them the same bargain we offer all species: worship us, receive our blessings, live under our protection and guidance. They refused," a third god said, and its tone carried old anger. "Every other species we have encountered accepted gratefully. The blessings we offer are genuine: power, knowledge, protection. But humans looked at our offer and said no." "We were insulted," the first god admitted. "We are the eternal pantheon. We have existed since the universe was young. No mortal species refuses us. So we curse them." Vexthar felt his blood turn to ice. "Curse them? What did you do?" "We cut them off from all divine power," the god explained. "We ensured they could never channel blessing or receive direct divine aid. We made their development slow and painful. We thought this would break them. We thought after a few thousand years of suffering, they would come crawling back, begging for our help." "But they didn't," another god said. And now Vexthar could hear the fear clearly. They thrived. Without our blessings, they developed science. Without our protection, they learned to protect themselves. Without our guidance, they created their own purpose. They conquered their world through pure determination. They reached the stars using only crude technology and stubborn refusal to accept limitations. "We have watched them for 10,000 years, a god continued. "We kept waiting for them to fail, to collapse, to finally admit they needed us. But they never did. Every obstacle made them stronger. Every disaster made them more resilient. The curse we meant to break them instead created something we never expected." "What?" Vexthar whispered. "A species that doesn't need gods," the Pantheon said in unison, their voices merging into one terrible truth. "And that, Commander Prelate, is the most dangerous thing in the universe." Vexthar tried to understand. "But they are just one species. Surely the Pantheon's power—" "You don't understand," a god interrupted. "The curse worked too well. They cannot receive our help, Vexthar. Even if they wanted our blessings now, even if they begged, we could not grant them. The curse is permanent. We made them immune to divine power, all divine power, including ours." The implications crashed over Vexthar like a wave. "Then we cannot— The blessings we use against them are less effective, yes," the Pantheon confirmed. "They are not completely immune to indirect effects. Your blessed weapons can still harm them. But divine favor, probability manipulation, fate bending, all the subtle ways we ensure our followers' victory, none of it works on humans. They exist outside cosmic order. Fighting them is like fighting the universe itself, raw, uncaring, and governed only by physics." "Why did you not tell us this?" Vexthar demanded, anger overriding his fear. "We have lost thousands, entire fleets. If you knew humans were this dangerous—" "We did not think they would be this successful," a god said, and it sounded almost defensive. "They should not have advanced this far. The curse should have kept them weak, but they compensated through technology, through science, through sheer bloody-minded refusal to accept that some things are impossible." Another god spoke. "Worse, they are learning from you. Human scientists are studying divine power, not worshiping it, not accepting it, studying it like it is just another natural force. They are developing weapons specifically designed to counter blessings. They treat our power as a problem to be solved." "This cannot spread," another god said urgently. "If other species learn that gods can be defied, that divine power can be analyzed and countered, that cosmic order is not absolute, the entire system collapses," Every blessed species in the galaxy would start questioning. Rebellion would spread. The universe would descend into chaos. "We need you to withdraw," the Pantheon said together. "Immediately. Humanity cannot be allowed to spread their philosophy to other species. The quarantine must hold." "Withdraw?" Vexthar could not believe what he was hearing. "We are the Korvathi Ascendancy. We do not retreat. Our honor." "Your honor means nothing if humanity learns to weaponize their defiance." The gods' voices thundered through the not space. "They have already proven they can fight blessed warriors. If they start teaching other species how to resist divine authority, if they show the galaxy that gods can be overcome through science and determination, everything we have built will crumble." "Then send more blessings," Vexthar pleaded. "Grant us greater power. Give us weapons that can finally break them." "We cannot," the Pantheon said sadly. "The curse prevents it. We designed them to be unable to receive our help, and that includes being unable to be properly harmed by our most powerful blessings. They exist in a blind spot of divine power. The more direct intervention we attempt, the less effective it becomes. Besides," another god added quietly, "we are afraid of them." Vexithar stared. Gods were afraid? "How can you fear mortals?" "Because they proved the unthinkable," a god said. "They proved that gods are not necessary. For 10,000 years they have built civilization, reached the stars, and created wonders without any divine help. They are living proof that the cosmic order is not inevitable, that faith and blessing are not required for greatness, that mortals can succeed purely through their own efforts. And if that idea spreads," the Pantheon said together, "if other species realize they do not need us, that they can achieve everything through their own power, we become obsolete. Gods cannot exist without believers, Vexthar. Humanity is our existential threat." The communion ended abruptly. Vexthar found himself back in his chamber, shaking and soaked with sweat. Calth rushed to his side. "Commander Prelate, are you all right? What did the Pantheon say?" Vexthar looked at his war priest with new eyes. "They said we are losing this war, not because humans are stronger, but because they are immune to the very thing that makes us strong. The gods cursed them, and the curse made them into something that can kill us. What do we do?" Vexthar stood slowly. For the first time in his life, he questioned his gods. "I don't know, but we must decide soon. Do we obey the Pantheon and retreat, abandoning our honor and admitting defeat? Or do we continue fighting a war the gods themselves admit we cannot win?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Outside, human forces were regrouping, adapting and preparing for the next battle. They did not know they were cursed. They thought they were simply fighting for survival, and that ignorance made them unstoppable. Vexthar spent 3 days in isolation after his communion with the Pantheon. He prayed, meditated, and searched his souls for guidance. But no matter how he looked at the situation, the truth remained unchanged. The gods had ordered retreat, his honor demanded victory, and the humans continued to fight with increasing effectiveness. On the 4th day, he called a council of all his senior officers, war priests, ship commanders, ground force leaders. They gathered in the command chamber, their faces showing the strain of 6 months of brutal warfare. "I have communed directly with the eternal Pantheon," Vexthar announced. The room fell silent. Direct communion was almost legendary. "They have revealed truths about humanity that we were never told." He explained everything. The ancient offer of blessing, humanity's refusal, the curse that was meant to break them but instead made them strong. The gods' fear of a species that proved divine power was not necessary for success. The reaction was mixed. Some officers accepted the news with religious devotion. If the gods said it, it must be true. Others looked shaken, their faith cracking under the weight of divine failure. A few looked angry, feeling betrayed by gods who had sent them into an unwinnable war without warning. Kalth spoke first. "Then we have no choice. The Pantheon commands withdrawal. We must obey." "And abandon our honor?" Ship Commander Wrath demanded. "The Korvathi ascendancy has never retreated from a conquest. If we leave now, we admit defeat. How can we face our people?" "How can we face our gods if we disobey?" Kalth countered. The argument spread through the chamber. Officers divided into factions. Those who prioritized faith against those who prioritized honor. The unity that had defined the Korvathi for 3,000 years cracked. Vexthar raised all four hands for silence. "There is a third option," he said quietly. "One that I would never have considered before meeting these humans. We could ask for peace." The chamber erupted. Officers shouted over each other. "Peace with those who defy the gods? Negotiate with cursed beings? This is madness." "Is it?" Vexthar's voice cut through the chaos. "We have fought for 6 months, lost half our fleet, achieved nothing but death on both sides. The Pantheon admits this war cannot be won through conventional means. They want us to retreat because they fear what humans represent. But perhaps there is wisdom in what humans represent." "You speak heresy," Kalth said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Do I? Or do I speak truth that we have been too faithful to see?" Vexthar looked at each officer in turn. "The humans have no gods, yet they built a civilization that rivals ours. They have no blessings, yet they fight with honor and courage. They have no divine protection, yet they protect each other with a ferocity we cannot match. What does that tell us?" "That they are cursed and broken," someone muttered. "Or that they are free," Vexthar said. "Free to choose their own path. Free to succeed or fail on their own merits. Free from cosmic powers that claim to protect us, but send us to die in wars we cannot win." The chamber fell silent. The words hung in the air like blasphemy, but no one could deny the truth in them. "I am going to contact the humans," Vexthar decided. "I will request a ceasefire and negotiations. Those of you who wish to follow the Pantheon's command and retreat may do so. I will not stop you. But I want to understand these creatures who defied gods and won, and perhaps we can learn from them." The fleet split. 1/3 of the Korvathi chose to return home, unwilling to disobey divine command or compromise their faith. The rest stayed, curious, angry, or simply too tired to keep fighting. Admiral Chen received the ceasefire request with suspicion. "It could be a trap," her tactical officer warned. "Probably," Chen agreed. "But we cannot sustain losses much longer either. Set up a neutral meeting ground. Maximum security. If they want to talk, we will listen." The meeting took place on a neutral asteroid, in a hastily constructed chamber open to vacuum on both sides. Vexthar came with minimal escort. Chen brought the same. They stood across from each other, two military leaders exhausted by a war neither could win. "Why do you seek peace now?" Chen asked bluntly. "You are God's chosen warriors. We are just humans. What changed?" "We learned the truth," Vexthar said. He explained the curse, the Pantheon's fear, the impossible situation. Chen listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was not cruel laughter, but amazed. "You are telling me that gods actually exist. They specifically cursed humanity to be weak, and we succeeded anyway?" "Yes. And now these gods are afraid because we proved they are not necessary?" "Yes." Chen laughed harder. "That is the most human thing I have ever heard. Of course, we would accidentally terrify cosmic powers by being too stubborn to fail. Of course, we would turn a divine curse into an advantage." She wiped her eyes. "So what do you want, Commander Prelate?" I want to understand, Vexthar said honestly. My people have served gods for 3,000 years. We have never questioned, never doubted. But watching humans fight without divine favor, seeing you adapt and overcome despite cosmic opposition, it raises questions I never thought to ask. Questions like? Like whether gods are truly necessary, whether blessing is required for greatness, whether free will matters more than divine guidance. Vexthar met her eyes. Your species was cursed to be weak, yet you are strong. You were meant to suffer until you submitted, yet you thrived through defiance. How? Chen considered her words carefully. We never knew we were cursed. We just thought the universe was indifferent to us. And when you think the universe doesn't care whether you succeed or fail, you realize that success is entirely up to you. No one is coming to save us. No cosmic power guarantees our survival. So we save ourselves. We fight for every inch of progress. We fail, learn, adapt, and try again. And when you face impossible odds, we fight anyway, because what else can we do? Surrender? Give up? That is not survival. That is just slow death. She smiled grimly. Your gods curse us. The universe tries to kill us, and aliens show up demanding submission. And every single time, humanity's response is the same. No, make us. Vexthar felt something shift in his understanding of reality. And you never feel the need for divine protection? We have each other, Chen said simply. Human protects human. That is our divine power. We are all we have, so we make ourselves enough. The ceasefire became a treaty. The Korvathi who remained would be allowed to stay, but as guests, not conquerors. They would share their knowledge of divine technology. In return, humans would share their science, their methods, their way of thinking that treated impossible problems as challenges to overcome. Thousands of Korvathi chose to stay, some because they were curious, others because they had lost faith in gods who would send them to die unnecessarily, still more because they saw in humanity something their own civilization had lost, the freedom to determine their own fate. Kalth was among those who stayed. He spent his first month simply observing human society. He watched scientists work without prayer, achieving results through experimentation and mathematics. He watched soldiers train without blessings, relying on skill and teamwork. He watched civilians live their lives without consulting divine will, making choices based on personal judgment and mutual care. It is terrifying, he admitted to Vexthar one day, living without gods to guide us, making decisions without knowing if we have cosmic favor, facing a universe that doesn't care if we succeed. But also liberating, Vexthar said. He had been studying human philosophy, reading their history, trying to understand their mindset. When there are no gods to blame for failure or credit for success, every achievement is truly yours. Every choice matters because you made it. Not because divine will guided you. It is a harder life, but perhaps a more honest one. The Pantheon will not forgive us, Kalth warned. We have abandoned our faith, rejected divine authority. We are heretics now. Yes, Vexthar agreed, but we are free heretics. The news spread slowly across the galaxy. The Korvathi ascendancy had failed to conquer Earth. Worse, some Korvathi had chosen to stay with humans, learning their godless ways. The Pantheon tried to suppress the information, but truth has a way of spreading. Other species began to hear about humanity, a race that was cursed by gods and thrived anyway, a civilization that built wonders without divine blessing, a people who fought cosmic powers and won through sheer determination. Some species dismissed it as propaganda. Others were curious. A few began to question their own divine patrons. If humans could succeed without gods, what did that say about the cosmic order? The Pantheon watched with growing horror as their worst fear came true. Humanity was exporting rebellion, not through force or conversion, but simply by existing as proof that gods were not necessary. Questions led to doubts, doubts led to independence, and independence threatened the entire divine hierarchy. Admiral Chen stood on Earth's surface, looking up at the stars. Alien ships now orbited her world, not invaders, but guests. Some came to learn, others came to trade. All came because they heard about the species that defied gods and won. "What happens now?" her aide asked. "Now?" Chen smiled. "Now we show the galaxy what humanity learned 10,000 years ago. That you don't need cosmic powers to reach the stars. You just need the courage to try, the stubbornness to keep going, and the absolute refusal to accept that anything is impossible." She thought about the divine curse, meant to break humanity into submission. Instead, it had made them into exactly what the universe needed. A species that proved divine authority was not inevitable, that mortals could stand on their own, that the only power that truly mattered was the power to choose your own fate. "The gods cursed us to teach us our place," Chen said quietly. "Instead, they taught us that we don't have a place. We make our own, and now we are going to teach that lesson to anyone who wants to learn." Above her, the stars waited, not with divine favor or cosmic blessing, but with simple possibility. And for humanity, possibility had always been enough. The war was over. A new chapter was beginning. And across the galaxy, the gods trembled as they realized their greatest mistake. They had tried to break humanity with a curse. Instead, they had created the one thing that could break them: hope.